G'day everybody, I'm Dean Jones and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Glam Corner. We're Australia's largest online fashion rental destination. And I'm part of the NORA Advisory Council. I'm joined here today by Tim Davies from ZELLIS. Tim, mate, welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to see you again, Dean.
Thank you for joining, mate. And you've had a very interesting career in the Australian e-commerce ecosystem.
You could say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'd be fascinated to learn a bit about that today. So perhaps before we go into exactly where ZELLIS started, perhaps could you give a bit of a picture for the folks at home about how you made your way into what sounds like also the very early genesis of e-commerce in Australia?
Yeah, look, it's been going for about 20 years or so, e-commerce. I actually had a failed business in weight loss, of all businesses. And I had to fire 13 staff, business went bust, it was a terrible time. And I think anyone that's had any kind of success in life has probably been through that kind of reversal at some stage, but when it hits you, it's no fun at all. At that stage, I had very little in the bank. I just had a newborn baby, had a family to look after. All I could think of was finding something and selling it on eBay. That's where it started. So I kind of bumbled my way through, made every mistake that everybody could possibly make. And then 4 years later, after I worked in a couple of businesses in an accounting capacity, found myself applying for a job, found myself out of work again, and then applying for a job with eBay. I'd never seen a job advertised for eBay at the time. I thought that was a bit unusual, and they were looking for a person that they were describing as a business development manager. We all know business development manager is a code for sales, and I'm not really, I don't think I'm a salesman, I probably am, but I don't think I am. I didn't think I was. And then the first line of the ad said, if you're a typical sales type BDM, this is not the role for you. So I'm sitting there going, well, I don't know what the role is, but I reckon I could do it. And I was selling on eBay, so I figured I knew a little bit about it. Anyway, that's where it started. I did get the job. I ended up doing business development management or growth of sales for sellers on eBay for about 2 years. And then I moved into the role of seller education. It was a great experience. I'd had a friend years earlier that had a Tandy store, and he invited me around one night to do a stock take. I swore I'd never go into retail again. It was the worst, most boring experience doing stock take and counting things, and it was just horrible. And yet here I am in sort of online retail. The experience with eBay was good because I was exposed to a lot of sellers, we used to call them, merchants, most of whom we were dealing with were relatively large and successful. I was dealing with businesses that had sold a lot of stuff but weren't necessarily good at what they did. And so it was an interesting position to be in because I found I could actually add value to them with an accounting background, with having run my own businesses. There was things that I could talk to them about around efficiency, about processes and so forth, which helped them. And we had some great success stories, and it was really fun. That was sort of my happy space. I moved on from eBay about 6 years ago. Didn't know what I was going to do after that, and somebody said, you should be a consultant. Like, do you go to the yellow pages and look up consultant and call people? Like, I didn't know how to get clients with that, to do consulting with. I was going to the Retail Global Conference, I think a couple of weeks after I left eBay. So I figured I've got to have a business card to give people. Oh, hang on, I need to have a business name.
Title of
oh my gosh, I need to put a website on it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
The whole lot kind of got started, and that's where ZELLIS was born. At that stage, it was nothing more than just me consulting. It's kind of evolved and changed since then.
I'm sure McKinsey started in the same place.
I think every business starts with one person's idea.
Yeah.
And some of them make it, some of them don't.
Yeah. And as you say, that comes with the territory.
Yeah, it does.
I think what would be interesting is how many of the folks at home started their online retailing business or retailing business, testing the market, selling something on eBay in the same way you just described. I know we did, probably more than people realise.
Yeah, well, eBay has been an amazing staple for so many years of e-commerce in Australia. I always used to say, prior to all the other marketplaces starting, eBay was a bit like doing e-commerce with trainer wheels.
Yes.
If you went off the rails, they'd slap you back.
Yep.
I always said if you could do business well on eBay, you could probably do business well anywhere.
Yep.
Because it was really strict, it was very transparent. Customers could see your mistakes, what and all. You were measured on it. You were dropped in search if you didn't perform well. So you get very, very quick reactions and responses back from it. There's a degree of anonymity in a website.
Yes.
It's your own website. There's no, you've got reviews and so forth if you go down that path, and even if you don't, you might get shouted down in social media, but ultimately nobody really sees what you're actually doing, good or bad. So I think there's a merit in all businesses going down that path of going into marketplaces, being held to account for the standards that they're offering, and then making it out. Because if they do that and learn that well, and then they turn to deal with the customer directly, they're generally going to do a good job.
I think that's right, mate. And there's all those kind of Darwinian ingredients that are pretty brutal in e-commerce. You're right.
Yeah.
E-commerce for training wheels is a really good description, I think, of exactly that, where you started.
Of course, it's all changed since then, because now there's multiple marketplaces. Just the flavour of the year in 2017, Catch beat Amazon, one of the greatest Australian stories ever. Right now, Catch is killing it. They're just doing amazing things. We've had a lot of our clients that have been sellers on eBay and also now sellers on Catch that are doing way more on Catch than they've ever done on eBay.
Great.
Which is interesting because eBay as a marketplace is so much bigger than Catch.
Yes,
and
true.
they're selling a lot more.
Yep.
So there's some nuances in how the marketplaces work.
Yep.
They're not all the same, but that's a space that we play in with the marketplaces as well.
It's great. In the end, it's always great for the end customer if the incumbent, whoever they are, can be toppled by someone who has a better product.
Well, it's better, yeah. So competition is obviously strong in retail, full stop. Whether you're in a physical stores, in a shopping centre competing with people selling the same products, or you're online, you're all competing for the Google traffic to come through to your website, or you're in a marketplace, all competing in their search. Competition is one aspect of it, but it's so hard in any business, as you'd know, even with your own business. Getting the customer to come in the door is hard. Then getting them to stay long enough to actually see what you've got and like it, that's hard. And then getting to actually pick something up and walk out with and give you some money for it, that's hard. Mm-hmm. And so you've got your impressions and your clicks. That's getting in the door and looking around, and then you've got the actual conversion or sales at the end. Online is no different to offline, but at any stage during that process, if the customer just gets that little bit of not too sure, a little bit of distrust, a little bit of you sounds too good to be true, looks a bit expensive, that little bit of negativity, they're gone.
Oh yeah. From the merchandising to the pricing to the user experience to the internet speed, there's so many factors.
There's a lot to think.
Yeah, I think especially in online retail, it's builds some pretty tough nuts. I think in general retail and online retail. If you can sell stuff online especially at scale like that, there's almost any kind of business I think you could sell.
Yeah. So e-commerce itself has obviously exploded. COVID actually kind of helped the e-commerce industry, as we know. The numbers that I've seen, the research that I've seen is indicating that those numbers are still elevated, are probably going to continue to rise. And I think that what's happening now, well, I don't think, I know. I remember 10 years ago training a bunch of eBay sellers and saying, righto guys, you've got a window this big and it's closing. The big guys are coming. Yeah. You need to learn now how to be like a retailer. They weren't retailers, they were eBay sellers. They were just mum and pop businesses. Yep. I call them accidental retailers because they didn't realise they were retailing, but that's what they were doing. And they had to learn to think like a retailer. They had to learn to put the personal aside. You get a negative feedback on a marketplace, it hurts. It's your business. Like, they're attacking me. How dare they? But of course, you go to Big W and you go in there and they don't have the same reaction. They're a retailer. It's all about scale. It's all about numbers. With e-commerce being such a small percentage of retail for so long, it's been growing but very slow. The bigger retailers could kind of go, that's a fad. It's just for those guys. Let them have the little playground, the kindergarten. That's great. Yeah. All of a sudden, COVID came along, and suddenly e-commerce hit 40% of all retail. Whoa, hang on a minute. Yeah. Now suddenly the retailers are going, geez, this thing looks like it's got legs. Yes. Yes. We better put some money into that, put a line in our budget for that. And the line that they're putting in the budget's not $1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or 500,000. It's several $1 million. Big investments being made. So suddenly all those little mum and pop businesses have got an even smaller window now to kind of get with the program, learn it right and do it right. And sometimes they've got the agility to do that, but they've got to do it now. Or in another 2-3 years' time, the big retailers are going to come and do it well. Yes. As they always have in physical retail, but in online as well.
I think that's right. And I think for a lot of the people at home, while in the short term anyway, COVID was very good for online retail spend in general. It has also accelerated the intensity of competition, particularly big participants with big budgets. There's some real big battleships in these waters now that maybe wouldn't have been here for 5-10 years. But they're now here faster because of that.
Yeah, well, they are. And the thing is too, if you look at the participation rate of just the average Australian person, now they couldn't go down to their favourite store to buy whatever they were going to buy. So they're sitting there at night watching the TV show and flicking through their mobile phone, discovering things, suddenly going, oh, that's a really good price, or I've never seen them before. And then, of course, when everyone's out of lockdown and we can go back to the physical shops again, they go back, oh, thank goodness, can't wait to get back to the shops again.
Yes.
Oh, that's all you got?
Yeah.
And so the endless aisle concept that us natives in the e-commerce space have been talking about forever, suddenly now the consumers are kind of going, oh, I like that idea.
Yep.
And that, I think, is partly fueling why there's so many marketplaces popping up, because the retailers don't have any more space in their warehouses to put more stuff. They don't want to pay more rent. Yep. And they don't want to go and put out physical stores because that's not their model.
Yep. And
so now they're kind of going, hey, you've got some stuff in your house, can we put it on here and we'll do it, you know. Exactly. So that's happening left, right and centre at the moment.
Absolutely. And as someone who's always had infinite shelf space, actually, I've grown a newfound respect for traditional retail.
Yeah.
When you've got a limited amount of space and you have the right product on the shelf for the right customer at the right time. That's super hard from a merchandising perspective. So
No,
really,
absolutely correct. Yeah,
really
it's always a challenge.
Something you get complacent about in online retail. You just have a bazillion trillion products. And so tell us then, Tim, where does ZELLIS come in terms of the expertise you guys feel like you bring to the table here for retailers of various sizes?
Yeah, so it's been an evolutionary journey. It's not one that I planned. I began by consulting. So I'd sit down on your lounge, I'd drink your coffee, you'd listen to my voice, you'd give me some money, and we'd both part our ways and everyone would be happy, especially me, because I had money in my bank account and all I had to do was talk. But then I started getting asked the hard question, this is fantastic, but can you do it? It's like, yeah, I suppose. I had a client actually ask me and say, you know, this is exactly the solution we need, that's great, we don't have the time, a husband-wife team, they're very small, can you just set it all up for us and then just show us how to use it and we'll be fine.
Yep.
I gave them a price that I thought would scare them off because I kind of knew it was the right solution, but I hadn't actually done it hands-on, I'll be perfectly honest. Yep. And they just turned around and said, that's great, when can you start? So I was like, well, okay, now firstly I've got to learn how to do it. Secondly, there's some money in this.
Yes.
There's opportunity, there's demand there for those that are short on time. That's where it started. Now what's happened is that the big area that we found we needed with the consulting about how to set up an e-commerce business or expand it or go multi-channel, the one ingredient that most of the smaller retailers missed, and probably even some of the big ones as well, was the product data. The data is the juice that drives e-commerce, and what was happening was they had one picture of the front of the DB, not the back. They had a very small picture where you couldn't really see if it was your country or not, you know, or the clothes, you know, just only part of it. They didn't show you the close-up of the pocket. They weren't thinking about translating the physical experience into the digital, where the customer is totally reliant on what you have given them before, you know, a few weeks before they even turn up to the website. In a physical store, you can walk into the store and go, oh, that's nice, let me feel it, let me have a close look, turn it around, ask a question. So as a retailer in a physical store, you can respond. You can see the customer's got that puzzled look on their face and you can ask them the question. You know, oh, are you sure? Can I give you some help? Online, you can't do that. There's nobody sitting on the other side of the screen watching going, where are you? You know, where are they going to go next? Well, there are some software programs that do that, but there's no actual individual.
The in-store conversion rate is orders of magnitude higher kind of per visit than in online.
It's responsive, it's reactive. So from that beginning where I was then sort of forced to learn how to do it, we then found that data, the product data, was the missing ingredient, or the ingredient that people were not really putting the proper effort into. So it was they were not describing the product properly. Again, with the eBay background, they were not putting the right keywords in their titles to be found in search. Same principle applies in Google. We had a number of clients back in those early days where they had like 5,000, 10,000 products from a supplier. They had 80% of the data that they needed, but they didn't have weight. How the heck are you going to charge somebody shipping on your website if you don't have the weight of the product? You can't calculate it. So suddenly their choices for their shipping value proposition is down to either free shipping and we're just going to have to wear it, or $10 and hope for the best. And that's not really a good strategy.
No, I've had the pleasure of weighing thousands of products myself. So for that exact
There's no shortcut, and this is the thing. So the space that I found myself moving into, and it was only me and one or two other guys that were working from home over in the Philippines, just doing a lot of data work. I'd set up the spreadsheets, they'd do it, send it back to me, and well, I very quickly became a bottleneck because I only had so many hours in the day, and I had only so many brain cells that could kind of keep track of all the different clients that we had. So fast forward to today, we've actually got a team of data specialists, a team of 20, based in the Philippines, our own staff. Now, what we did about 2 years ago is we changed the way that they were working. Instead of it all funneling through me, which was ridiculous, each business or each client that we work with will actually get a person that works directly with them, full time. or half-time, depending on what they want to do. Now, that data work might be, here's my supplier, there's their spreadsheet, fill out the rest, put in the titles, optimise it for Google, optimise it for the website, go to the competitor site and find the weight, go to the manufacturer site and download the pictures, whatever it is. It's the actual grunt work that you have to do to make that whole e-commerce experience work. So that's a big part of what we do today.
Great.
And that was the journey that then led us into a more broader offering, which is what we do today. So our business is effectively e-commerce web design. Sounds a long way from data, but again, if you think about that data at the background, if you don't have the right data there, you can't offer certain things on the website. Like I said, if you don't have the weight, can't offer you shipping.
Yep.
If you don't have the colours of the garments, we can't offer you a drop down to choose the right size of the right colour.
Or if you've got to put the right keyword in the back end to make sure that for those 10,000 SKUs that they're listed, they're displaying, whether it be in Google Shopping or online search.
No.
Suddenly you guys have a battalion of people who can come in and help do that.
Yeah.
It's just excruciatingly time consuming and hard work, but it's got to be done.
And there is no real kind of magic wand you can wave to do that.
It's just got to get done.
There are some very good data matching programs. There's some great AI being developed. There, more and more manufacturers and distributors are starting to realise that they need to structure their data properly to do it. We call it structured data because I can give you a sentence with all the different right keywords in it. If it's not structured, a computer can't do anything with that.
True.
It can only do it when you say type equals this, colour equals this, size equals this. That's structured. Now a computer can do all sorts of things with it.
And even when it's commoditized though, that means everyone else who's listing those products has the same information. So I think it still always helps having a human being make it
It's the point of difference, yeah. Well, we, again, going back to the eBay days, use the image as a point of differentiation.
Yep.
You go through search results in any marketplace and you see the same picture popping up 50 times, your eyes glaze over. You get sick. You want to look for something different.
Well, you always get skeptical, like
it
could even be fraudulent.
Yeah, are they knocking it off, or are they just using the same picture, or are they all the same person? So it's not the right way to go. So we've always advocated go the extra effort, take your own photos, or invest in the. Look, we've got a client that's actually selling auto car parts for Ford and Toyota. Now, they went back to Ford and Toyota and said, we want to sell these parts. They're like, yep, knock yourself out. Can we have the data, please? We don't have any.
No data. Yep.
Or we've got it, but you're not allowed to have it because of whatever reason. The politics in that particular automotive space is crazy.
Yep.
And so they came to us and like, what do we do? It's like, well, guys, you've got to employ somebody to walk around with a camera, unpack the items, take a photo, put a little sticker on there so we know which one it is, and then we've had to go and edit those photos. It's taken us 3 years. We've done probably about 20,000 products.
Fascinating.
And particularly in the automotive space, which is an area that we specialise in purely because it's data heavy, 20,000's actually fairly small.
Yes. All kinds of
those
parts
businesses,
in the automotive space, absolutely. Parts databases. Yes, absolutely. Well, that's really interesting, Tim. So, mate, for the folks at home, the final question I'd like to ask is, where do you think the team at ZELLIS, for retailers big and small who might be listening in, where do you feel over the coming 12, 18 months, you feel you guys might be well positioned to be able to help them out with some of the many challenges they're going to be navigating?
So if we look at the industry more broadly to perhaps answer part of that, the retail industry is, two things are happening. So the big guys are coming, they're investing millions, they're going to do it well, they're soaking up all the talent. If you try and hire somebody that's got experience now, it's extremely difficult, you've got to pay top dollar. That's just a reflection of the fact that the industry is heightened. But what's also happening is that the marketplaces are opening up. So not only has Bunnings got their versions of a marketplace, Wesfarmers bought Catch, now Kmart's doing it, now Woolworths is going to do it. Like all these big retailers are starting to make marketplaces. eBay was safe and secure for 20 years. And then Catch and Amazon, now Kogan and My Dealer, it just goes on. But that creates a real issue because how do you go onto each of those websites, upload your 10,000 or 5,000 or even 500 products, and then keep track of how much you've got actually available in the warehouse? You can't do it manually through that. So we call it multi-channel, omni-channel, whatever you want to call it. But the area where we play is really that helicopter view to say, okay, where are you today? How did you get to where you are? What are your capabilities? Where do you want to go? Who do you see as your competitors? What's your goal? And so whilst we don't offer consulting services as such, but consulting's built into everything that we do. So you come to us and say, we want a new website. Great, what do you want a website for? Well, I want a website, it's for e-commerce. Yeah, but you've already got a website. What do you want another one for? Oh, because we go through that discussion and actually challenge the client to really think about who they are and define who they are. Then secondly, we look at what they've got. So what's the product data you've got? You're missing the weights. Can we get the weights? You're missing the images. Those images are too small. They won't be accepted by Google. We go through that whole thing with them. And sometimes they do the work. We're happy to train them for basically nothing. Or we can do it. And again, our data team can do it. And then the third thing is to then look at the actual web design, the actual web store design experience. Again, not just one website, but in the context of those multiple channels, whether it be marketplaces or even multiple websites. We do have quite a few clients that have multiple websites, maybe their own brands or different outlets or whatever. Daisy chain them all together so that they can actually manage all of those efficiently, get stock inventory managed across all of those different channels, all from one central location, which is the only way to manage multi-channel.
Oh yeah, it'd be so much burnt rubber if it was really fractured.
You can't afford it. Yep. You know, margins are pressured enough as they are. There's no point paying 2 or 3 times the price just to do the back work.
Online, yeah, exactly.
It's so hard. So we try and build in the efficiency. The websites that we create for, when they say websites, let's call them web stores. So it's actually an online shop. It's not just an information website. It's a functional site that has to anticipate what the customer is going to be looking for. We need to put the things that they're going to be looking for in the spot they're expecting to find them. I see a lot of designers, a lot of very good design firms that charge big dollars for websites that are very clever in how they do it. But you know what? When the customer's looking for contact or a phone number, they look the top right-hand corner or in the footer. That's the only 2 places they look. So why do you put it in the middle of the page?
Yep.
It doesn't work. I don't care how good it looks, it doesn't work. So our websites are not necessarily the cutting-edge, beautiful, artistic design, but they are functional and they're high converting because of that, because the things are exactly where the customer's expecting to go for it. When they open up a panel and look at, shoes, there's all the different categories all there. We often have to have that conversation with the client to evolve them to the point where they've got their categorization right to work with that experience. So yeah, it's quite a lot of work, but we love it.
They're the basics of e-commerce, but they're hard to get right. Yeah. I think I heard Jeff Bezos say once that customers never ask you, can you list less product? They'll never ask you, can you make them more expensive? And they'll never ask you, can you ship it to me a bit slower? They'll never ask you those 3 things. They're universal truth.
That's a business blueprint right there, I think, for the multi-channel space.
100%, exactly right. So Tim, mate, Tim from ZELLIS, thank you so much for joining us on NORA Showreels today, mate. Really enjoyed our chat.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.